Hey everyone, and welcome as we continue our study through the New Testament Gospels, looking at the 250 events in the life of Jesus. And today we're looking at Jesus grieving over Jerusalem. Again, he's done this before, and here we're going to see him grieve over Jerusalem again. And this is right after yesterday we looked at the triumphal entry where Jesus entered Jerusalem and he was praised and worshipped as he went into Jerusalem. But Luke writes an account of him stopping during this time and grieving over Jerusalem. So we're going to read this Luke 11:19, short section, verses 41 through 44. It says, "But as he came closer to Jerusalem and saw the city ahead, he began to weep. How I wish today that you of all people would understand the way to peace. But now it's too late, and peace is hidden from your eyes." What's going to happen is going to happen, and he understands that. "Before long, your enemies will build ramparts against your walls and encircle you and close in on you from every side. They will crush you into the ground, and your children with you. Your enemies will not leave a single stone in place because you did not recognize it when God visited you." And so this is really a really sad thing, and it's actually a prophecy. He's predicting what's going to happen, and it actually happens, and we're going to look at that. And so what we have here, right? The reason that Jesus said this was because the Jewish leaders, they just rejected Jesus. They rejected him completely, and Jerusalem was going to suffer for it. And they had gone too far. They're getting ready to crucify Jesus and completely reject him. They'd refused God's offer of salvation in Jesus Christ. They absolutely refused to. They refused to accept him. They were visited by God himself, and their nation was going to suffer for it, for this rebellion. And we're going to see that. And the thing here is like God did not turn away from the Jewish people who obeyed him, and we have to understand that. However, uh, he continues to offer salvation to the people he loves, both Jews and Gentiles, right? He talks about it being too late. He's talking about the too late for the city. It's not too late for them to turn to him. It's not too late for anyone to turn to Jesus. So we need to make sure we understand that when he talks about how it's too late for the city, what's going to happen to the city is what it's like. So eternal life is within anyone's reach. It's available to anyone, and anyone can accept it. And so when Jesus was making this thing, he was talking about it was too late for the city. Salvation again is available for everyone. And so this prediction, this prophecy that Jesus has actually happened about 40 years later after he said them, after he said these words. And the thing to remember here about this is most scholars believe Luke was written in the 60-ish time frame, 60 AD to, or some maybe even though it was 58 AD. But there's others who push it a little bit later. But I don't know. From what I can tell of the research I did, the 60 to 68 time frame was probably the most realistic time frame. So when Luke wrote this letter, more than likely he was writing Jesus's prophecy and it hadn't come true yet. So what we see then happen is in AD 66, the Jews actually revolt against their Roman control. They finally rise up and they revolt against the Roman control. And what happens is 3 years later they send Titus down to crush the rebellion, to crush this rebellion that's on. And so Roman soldiers attacked Jerusalem and broke through the northern wall, but they couldn't take the city. They were to take part of it, but they couldn't take the city. And so finally they laid siege to it in AD 70, and they were able to kind of really enter the weakened city and burn it down. I mean, they literally, it's what happened was horrible to Jerusalem. They eventually just surround the whole city, cut it off, and Jesus talked about this the first time we see him grieve over. He talks about how it would be better not to be pregnant, not to have all these things because of what was going to happen. And so they starved to death inside the city. And so basically they just waited them out until they were too weak to even fight, and they came in and they literally destroyed the city, and burned it down. And one of the things they did was they knocked the temple down. So I got this little picture here that you can see is they literally, when it said there was no stone left on top of another, there literally wasn't anything left. I mean, they take the entire temple mount and they shoved the temple into the valley, and this is all that's left of it. You can see these ruins all around the valley where the temple used to be, and around where the temple was, and below it. And this is, talking about one stone on top of it, this is all that's left. So the actual temple is something they destroyed the town and everything. And so you had this entire city that was burned to the ground. And from what they estimate, about 600,000 Jews were killed during Titus's onslaught. And so you can understand why, um, Jesus was doing this, because he knows. He's like, your enemy will not leave a single stone in place because you did not recognize it when God visited you. And so they literally and shoved the entire Temple Mount out and down into the valley, and there wasn't anything left. And there's very little left of what remained, and it's all rubble now. And so you can see why Jesus mourned what was going to happen here. And so, again, this is just a smaller section. It's a smaller story that we see of Jesus's life, but we still see that human compassion side of it. It's like, yes, they rejected him, and they rejected him, and because they rejected him, this is what happened to him. But it was, it still showed the human side of Jesus, because you can see the compassion, the grief that he has, because he didn't want that to happen. He didn't want this to happen. He didn't want to have to do any of this. But he came, and because he loved us so much, he still did, and he came. But that goes to the things like, well, if he loved them so much, why wouldn't he have not kept that from happening? It's like, because even though he loves us, he still allows us to suffer the consequences of our actions. That's one of the things with free will. We're given free will. We're given the free will to choose who we're going to follow, what we're going to do, and part of the result of free will is this very thing. And so it's just a good lesson to learn that, I think there's a lot of things here. One, we see the human side of you. He still grieves, even though, he knows things are going to happen. He still grieves over it. It shows our free will, or our free will to choose, but it also shows, that there was a rejection. But the other good side of this is that we see that there is always a way to salvation. Even though we might have to suffer some of the consequences of our actions, there's still salvation. There's still an opportunity for salvation through Jesus. And so that's the wonderful side of this entire message, is that no matter what, even if we reject Jesus just like the Pharisees did, as long as we're still alive and still have a chance, then we can still accept him. And that's the wonderful thing that we have there. As always, I appreciate everyone for watching. If you enjoy these, you like these, please share them. We're trying to get the message out and the word out as much as we can. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please go ahead and do that. We're going to continue to do that, and so that helps get the alerts and that kind of stuff when we do it. But as always, I appreciate everyone for watching.